Your story matters, don't let it fade. When everything changed, you were made.
Everything changed on the evening of Monday, September 9th, 2024, when two young United States Marines approached my happy place, my place of solitude, what I call my treehouse. As I saw them approach, I knew what it meant, but I couldn't and wouldn't believe it until I heard the words. As they started approaching closer, my canine companion, literally my king, could just feel the shift in mood and energy around me. And before I knew it, he took off after them, trying to stop them from getting any closer. Now I bounced along the deck, and this was embarrassing, but it was also funny. It gave me a chance to kind of compose myself, even though I knew what was coming. And unfortunately, I did hear the words, "On behalf of the United States Marine Corps, we regret to inform you of the passing of your son." Now, there was much more after that, but I was frozen. I did not hear anything. It was just a black tunnel. After what seemed like an eternity, what did I do? I offered them something to drink. I was fighting to keep my composure, to keep those tidal wave of feelings that were coming, because I couldn't have these two young men who were barely older than my son see me fall apart. They had a job that nobody envied, and I told them as much. So here I clung to the caretaker role, as if that small bit of hospitality to offer them something to drink would shield me from what was coming. As I saw them drive away, their car left in the darkness, I heard it. This primal, guttural scream. It took me a moment to realize that scream was from me. I still remember how the air felt. It was thick, it was heavy, it was suffocating. But then I realized I had to stand tall, I had to roll my shoulders back, and I had to stuff down those feelings because I had to get shit done. I had to be strong. I had to move forward. And so I did just that. I forgot everything I learned over the previous years about boundaries, boundary management, and vulnerability. So, what are these things called boundaries? They are what protect us mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially. There are so many different types of boundaries, but they are the cornerstone, the catalyst for being grounded, rooted, and well balanced. And we need to understand that boundaries, they're important and there's benefits. And I've had a long history with boundaries. Some I've had strength and determination to keep those boundaries in check. And other times I let them fall apart, disappear to please somebody else, to hide, or just to not have to deal with something. But what I learned is that boundaries are incredibly, incredibly important. And I want to give you a little bit of my history with boundaries. So my world started to unravel in October 2012 when my mother, beautiful, supportive, kind, nurturing woman, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Now, it was grim. The diagnosis was advanced. We were all praying for a miracle, but also accepting the inevitable. So my father, a man of quiet devotion for his family, a love for his wife, he retired at 81 years of age to care for her. Unfortunately, life had other plans. Just months into his retirement in March of 2013, my father was out walking the dog. He slipped, he fell, he hit his head, and he had bleeding on the brain. So he was rushed to a hospital near me where they did emergency brain surgery. He was doing well. He went to rehabilitation right there in the hospital because he had an important job when he came home to take care of my mom. So while we're taking care of my mom at home, somebody is always with my dad up there. And since I was the closest, that fell on me a lot. And about a week before his discharge, it was a Tuesday evening, and it was just a day like any other day. We were negotiating. I always like to get there at 7 a.m. He wanted me to come later, and he wanted me to bring him a cheeseburger. And so we had to get into our nightly routine of when am I going to get there? When am I going to bring him? This time I relented. I said, okay, I'll get there at 10. I won't get here at 7. And he sat there and he looked at me and he said, you know, I love you, baby girl. I am so proud of you. Now, I never wavered in my father's love and support of all his children and the pride that he took in his family. It wasn't unusual, but for him to look at me and just out of the blue say that, it was something I won't never forget. So I went home that night with the plans that we've made, but they would never come. I got a call earlier that morning and I had to rush to the hospital and they were performing CPR. And I ran to his side. I held his hand. I begged him to stay as I wiped his face. And at that point, I knew I had failed. I had failed him. I had failed my family. If I had just not relented and if I had been there at the time I said I was going to be there, I failed. My dad died on my watch. Meanwhile, my mom, she's lonely. She's heartbroken without the man who had been her rock. When he had passed, they had been married for 62 years. And let me tell you, the way they looked at each other, the way he looked at my mom from across the room, the way that he would smack her butt when nobody was looking. You know, at 81 years of age, their partnership taught me more than any book ever could, any Hallmark movie ever could, right? She was kicking cancer's ass, but I was afraid. I was afraid that another parent was going to die on my watch. So I did an arm's length distance. Even though I wanted to be there, I was afraid. I thought I was protecting everybody, but I was feeling guilty. I was afraid. And so I withdrew emotionally from my siblings, withdrew emotionally from my mother. And unfortunately, her dementia got worse. And she passed in December of 2018. And I lost precious time with her because of that fear. Again, boundaries changing, not the way they should be. In between my father's and mother's death, I entered a relationship with a younger man. He brought me joy, brought me laughter in a time where I truly needed it. Unfortunately, he had his own demons, addiction. Now, I thought I could fix him. Insert lyrics, really, I can. No, I did. I thought, this is my chance. I can save him when I couldn't have saved my mom and my dad. I could do this. Well, there goes my boundaries. I tried, but we can't save somebody who doesn't want saving, who's not willing to do the work. But unfortunately, boundaries gone, emotionally frayed, just stressed out. In May of 2016, at the age of 42 years old, I had an ischemic stroke. I looked great. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not saying pat myself on the back here, but I looked great. I was training for a half marathon. I was in the best physical condition I ever was. I was eating right, cardiovascular. But here's the thing. Stress doesn't show up in your abs. It shows up in your heart and your mind. And my body was screaming, enough. It came in a life-altering wake-up call because I wasn't listening. So now, what do? I reset. Slowly, intentionally, I begin to rebuild. I rebuild by building healthy boundaries, by healing physically, emotionally, spiritually. And then I begin reconnecting. So I'm doing good. But then March 2023, another little bit of a setback there. I was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer. For the next 18 months, I went through 20 rounds of chemotherapy and targeted treatment, 5 surgeries, including a double mastectomy, countless fluid treatments and blood infusions, and it was not fun. But cancer picked the wrong bitch. And so I was like, no, I'm going to fight this. I still worked through everything. I was doing what I needed to do. Again, boundaries, because don't tell me I can't do something. I'm going to do it twice and take pictures. But that wasn't it. I didn't want, I didn't need, I wasn't going to ask for help. And I didn't want to accept it. And so for me, cancer taught me you need to let people in. Once again, you need to that vulnerability. You need to change those boundaries. I was putting up walls and not really setting boundaries. I was not allowing myself to be vulnerable because I didn't want to see myself be weak. Making boundaries and being vulnerable is not weakness. Cancer taught me that. It taught me you needed to rest, you need to heal, and you need to rebuild. And that brings us back, because I was going back into the light, I was doing better. And we go back to the beginning of the story. My son, my angel, my sunshine, my pride and my joy, he died by suicide. The loss is indescribable. Part of me left with him that day. You see, I always wanted to be a mom, and I wasn't supposed to be able to have him. I had tumors that had completely engulfed my ovaries, and when I was 20 years old, I had my leftover removed and half of my right. So being able to have him was a miracle. And when he was young, he had once told me, well, I'm not a miracle. I chose you. I got to pick you. And I saw you and I wanted you. All right, so first of all, that was a little creepy, but it brought joy to me when he said that. And I will be forever blessed that I had 24 years with him. I am incredibly grateful, and I will, even knowing that he was only on loan, I would do it all over again. But you see, there is still this moment that every day I wonder, would there be something else I could have done to save him? So once again, I'm learning how to do boundaries, not just with people, but with fear, guilt, and the stuff that we all put on ourselves that is just not right. So where am I today? I'm rebuilding. I'm redoing. I'm trying to thrive. I'm not there yet, but I know I'll get there. I am showing up for myself in new ways. I'm learning that boundaries aren't something that you check. Vulnerability is not a checkbox either. We need to have that lifelong journey, and we need to practice it every day. And we need to understand that our boundaries change. What served you once may not serve you again, may not serve you tomorrow, and that's okay. But we need to be open to understanding when to stay firm in our boundaries and when it is okay to change. And that change needs to be right for us, not for everybody else around us, because it's your life you're living, right? Setting boundaries is an act of self-love, self-care, self-preservation. There's a few things I want to make sure that you take away from today. First, embrace vulnerability. It is not a weakness, it is your superpower. And when we embrace vulnerability ourselves, we open the doors for others to do the same. It is truly the birthplace of connection when we can open ourselves up. Next, set clear boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are a bridge to better communication, better relationships, and healing. We must continue to build those, to communicate those, and we can't assume that others know what our boundaries are. Next is making sure that we are evolving and adapting for continuous growth. Life doesn't stand still, and neither do our boundaries. So we need to make sure that we are helping ourselves to grow as individuals. And last, but certainly not least, prioritize your well-being. It is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Self-care, self-love is not selfish, it's sacred. And as we continue to love ourselves, we teach others how to love us. More importantly, we teach ourselves how to love us. Because vulnerability, setting boundaries, well-being, and involving, that takes power. That takes courage. And it says, I respect myself and I love myself. And if you don't love yourself first, how are others going to love you? This is my story. It's not one of failure. It's not one of falling down. It is rising again and again and again. As I stand here, it's hard, right? We listen to everybody's stories and we think, oh my gosh, that's so horrible. But your story matters no matter what, no matter who you are. Your life is yours. Don't let it be a comparison, because comparison is the thief of joy. And we need to live with joy in our hearts. My boy, when I need a moment. So if you take nothing else away from my experience, please let it be this. You don't have to do it alone. Let go of the superwoman syndrome. There are people that are out there for you and can help you. Ask for help. Accept the help. Learn to heal, learn to grow, and learn to love. So are you ready? Are you ready to branch out, to take that leap of faith, to grow something from even the most broken of soils, to be rooted? Life doesn't stand still. We rise, we rebuild, and we repeat. And then we live it up, love it up, and let it go. Thank you.
Your story matters.